Hi, hello, hey, and welcome to my tent, a place to hear life experiences, different opinions, a range of journeys, and a viewpoint different than our own. A place to challenge our own thoughts, a space to learn a little bit, and I promise some fun along the way. I believe we're better when we let a range of people into our tents, so welcome to mine. Did you know that our health is encompassed by way more than just food and fitness? Did you know I'm a health coach? What is a health coach? I can tell you. I work with individuals and groups to look at all aspects of life that help make us truly well. I have structured programs to help you create realistic, challenging but achievable, and long-term transformations that span long past our time working together. I help you take a multifaceted approach to your health, ranging from food, fitness, relationships, work-life balance, financial health, gratitude and joy, creativity, career, and more. If you are looking to make a health transformation, visit my website in the show notes or email me, sarah@sarahjohnstonwellness.com. Cheers to good health. Well, hello, Clint. It is so nice to have you here. And jumping in on you're in the tent now, so welcome.
That's right. Let's go.
Once you're in for life. So
sounds like
whether
a plan
or not
to me. I like
that's a
it.
good thing for you or not. But
well, I've been in worse places. I worked in prison, so everything after working in a prison, this is fine.
Well, that's great. We can probably get into some of that on this episode. Well, Clint, usually I toss it your way first, and you can give who you are, where you're from. Just a high level on who you are, and then we can really dive into all the goodies that you do. But a little bit of background on you would be awesome.
Sure. Well, let's see. Let's start at the beginning. So I was born 47 years ago. I weighed 1 pound, 15 ounces when I was born. So 47 years ago, weighing 1 pound, 15 ounces was not very good odds of staying alive.
Yeah.
To be polite about it. So my parents spent I spent about 4 months in the hospital in the NICU. And that was one of those things where I technically shouldn't come out of there alive. I shouldn't have come out of there being normal, but whatever that looks like, I guess I'm normal. I'm not quite sure.
Who's normal these days? Whatever.
Still trying to work that out and all of that, So I went through that, and it was really interesting because I didn't know that. So when I was born, I weighed so little. But the thing was, because they didn't know you could still hold premature babies, I was not actually held in a loving manner until about 3-4 months after being in an incubator. So the first 4 months of my life was clinically handled, right? Basically by doctors and nurses. And so I've recently found a journal that my mom kept, where she said one of the hardest things about going and seeing him when he's in the NICU is when I try to touch him, he flinches away like I'm going to hurt him, which is interesting because I've always had issues for my entire life about people instigating touch with me and me not instigating touch with them. And so I got trained in EMDR about 3 years ago, and I decided to be the guinea pig. And through EMDR, I was able to break that feeling. So before, when anybody would touch me, it was like fire ants under my skin. Now I don't have that anymore. So Science is amazing. It's wild and amazing stuff. So I started out then. So, it just goes to show, even when you're a baby, things that you don't remember can still have long lasting impact because your body remembers.
Yeah.
So from there, I moved to South Dakota, and I grew up in the Black Hills, and I lived there my whole life. Elementary school, junior high, and high school was hard because it was a bullying dynamic where individually my friends were great. As a group, I was the target. So that created anxiety, depression, people pleasing, and I became, burned out. And the anxiety was so bad that I would miss school because I was so physically sick. And then from there, it went to I was angry all the time. And so when I was about 12, my parents put me in therapy for the first time. And it was like, oh, wow, there's words for this. There's more than just angry, happy, and sad. Really? Wow. Okay. That's interesting. Oh, what? There's tools you can do. If I listen to my body and do this stuff, I'll actually be able to not be angry and explode. Oh, wow. Writing stuff down helps. Oh, okay. And so that began my love affair of becoming a therapist. So I initially went to undergrad and graduate school to become an FBI serial killer chaser.
What?
But changed my mind, and that's because I ended up working in a maximum security prison during graduate school, Walla Walla State Penitentiary. And being there taught me that prison system is bad, and I don't want to spend the rest of my life going in and out of those kind of institutions and talking to those kind of people or thinking like those kind of people or chasing those kind of people. So
Mm-hmm.
I decided to go and become a therapist instead. And
Fair,
no,
fair. Yeah.
so that's about it to there. So what else
Yes.
we got?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks everyone for tuning in. No, just kidding.
All right,
Um, yeah. That's
bye.
it. That's incredible. And so when you were in your adolescence and you went to that
Mhm,
therapist for the first time, when you were
mhm,
12 years old, did that even start to come into your brain of like, oh, this person's really helping me? I could potentially make this a career? Or was that sort of a
mhm.
subconscious thing at that point and later in life
Yeah,
came?
that didn't get me until about 14, 15, when I was like, okay, you're getting close to your now. You have to think about what you want to do for the rest of your life. You got to
Yeah.
figure out, I'm like, yeah, you're 15. Sure, you should know what you want to do for the rest of your life. Why not? Right. And so it's that kind of thing where then I was like, oh, that's interesting. Then they'd have like the career days and people's parents would come in and talk about what they did, those kind of things. And it kind of started dawning on me, oh, that's always been the way I've been. That's why individually with friends, even though some of them were my biggest bullies, why individually we'd have these deep, really deep conversations and stuff.
Hmm.
And so that's been me my entire life. I've always, because part of the interesting thing is the bullying and the people pleasing piece, and that part, it kind of gave me a superpower of being able to read people, because people pleasing is all about I'm trying to anticipate what you need from me before you even know that you need it, so I can give it to you and make you happy.
Yep.
And so I became a really good study of people, body language, facial expressions, cues, verbal tones, what they're trying to do, all these different things. So it gave me this ability to read people really well. But I also found out that when I read people, I didn't want to use it to hurt them. I want to use it to help them feel better,
Hmm.
because my mom was an unlicensed social worker. She started Emotions Anonymous in our town. She, did all these. She worked at the children's home. She worked for Lutheran Social Services. We had people living in our basement and random people coming to Thanksgiving, all these different things. My dad was an engineer, so I got the engineering piece of my brain. So I really looked at therapy as kind of a combination of, okay, this is the feeling piece, but this is the math kind of behind the feelings, because if you can figure out what the big feeling is, like if I'm angry, right? Anger seems so big. There's so much attached to it. Well, if you can break it down into the 3 or 4 or 5 different emotions that are causing the anger, you can address each individual one and then dissipate the anger a lot faster. So it's through those kind of things that's kind of where I came up with this whole, 1% per day change system that I'm talking to people about, is that, because it
Yeah.
doesn't take much to make a big change, because we're often used to, oh, I need the lightning bolt moment. I need this eureka aha moment, this light bulb exploding over my head moment. But really, that's not when change happens. That's the big catalyst to start it. But after that, about a week or two later, you find yourself stuck in the same pattern again.
Yeah. Or within, because I do a lot with fitness and I do a lot of training, a lot of people feel like I'm very overwhelmed because I don't have 60 minutes 5 times a week. I'm like, where are you getting these numbers?
Society, everybody says you need to do something for at least an hour to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, and so the small incremental changes is what I think
Mhm,
really is what I encourage in people. Okay, so you don't need 60 minutes. If you've never exercised before, take five
mhm,
minutes, then make it 10
yeah,
and then make it 20 and go from there.
mhm,
So can you talk about the 1%? It's small change, big impact. Yes.
yes,
And what
yes.
that looks like and how you structure that. And is that something that you work as also like implement within your
Mhm.
therapy sessions? Like how does that incorporate into everything that you do?
That it's something that I started and I incorporated first with myself.
Yeah.
So so where this all came from is in 2005, my mom had a really bad autoimmune disorder.
Mm.
So it basically turned her from a healthy 50-year-old woman to having the body of a 90-year-old in the space of about a year. And because she was in chronic pain all the time, she actually ended up taking her own life.
Mm.
And so that spun me out of being a therapist. And So then I went into real estate and I started my own business and I had all these other things to stay away from therapy. And then 2008 happened and we lost everything and I had to move in with my in-laws with our newborn son in 2009. And so that got me to a point where I decided I had to make a change. Is this the kind of father I want to be? Because I was burned out. I was disconnected. I was anxious. I was depressed. I was all these things that I didn't want to be. So what I had to do is I had to figure out, well, how do I change it? So I went back to Buddhism because I studied Buddhism when I was in college. And it was through that I started doing things. And having a newborn, I don't get 30, 40 minutes at a time
You get
to
like
do.
3 minutes at a
Yeah,
time.
if I'm lucky. Yes, exactly. And that actually is it. So I created a 3-step system that I did every day to begin to dig myself out of the hole and begin to reconnect with people. Because to me, burnout is not what people think it is. They think burnout is I'm just tired, I'm overworked, I'm feeling these things, I'm just, I'm these kind of things, right? What it is burnout is actually profound disconnection from yourself. It's being disconnected from the people around you. It's being disconnected from your purpose. It's being disconnected from your, healthy use of time. It's just being disconnected in every single aspect of your life to where you really only have one kind of real tether anymore, where all these other things that would tether you are now gone. And so you're just disconnected and you're feeling like you're floating in space. And so when I recognized that, I started meditating literally 3 minutes a day. So I meditated for 3 minutes a day and then I journal for 2. And I do my morning meditation to be 3 minutes focusing on intention. What do I want to get from today? Because most people just try to get through the day. I was getting through the day for like a decade. I was
Right.
working as a therapist for a health insurance company. And when you're a therapist for a health insurance company, that doesn't feel like real therapy because there's strict timelines, strict guidelines, strict everything because it's all about maximizing the dollar, right?
Yep.
Don't get me started on that part of the health
We
insurance
could get
system.
there for
We can have a
sure.
whole deep conversation about that.
Yes.
And so I started doing the 3 minutes a day and then 2 minutes of journaling, writing down my intentions. And then at lunchtime, I would go back and review that and do 3 minutes and 2 minutes. And then at dinner, I'd do the same thing, 3 minutes, 2 minutes. So really, it was 15 minutes a day. And that 15 minutes a day allowed me to begin to reconnect with people because I knew more what was going on inside of me. I had, I used different therapeutic techniques and different tools that I've learned throughout the course of being a therapist and being in therapy. And because I've been in therapy multiple different times, any therapist that doesn't have a therapist of their own is not a good therapist.
Yeah, I would
That's what it comes down
imagine
to.
you definitely need space for
Yeah.
yourself when you're ingesting others all
Mm-hmm.
day. And I know that that's also one of my big questions too. I don't want to completely get off track, but
No.
as, and I'm sure you're using this method too,
Mm-hmm.
alongside being in therapy yourself. How
Yes.
do you handle being the person for other
Mm-hmm.
people? Because you have a whole docket of them. And
Yep.
I even sometimes feel overwhelmed if my husband comes to me with a problem
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, I can't
Yep.
do this right now. I'm
Yeah.
tapped out. How do
Yeah.
you ingest all of that, but then keep space for yourself as well?
It's really interesting because this is something that I learned in my graduate course of crisis intervention. One of my teachers there told me this lesson that I've never forgotten. And she said, there's 2 ways in life that you get to be. You can either be the lightning rod or you can hold on to the lightning rod. Fair warning, if you hold on to the lightning rod, you're going to smell Kentucky Fried Chicken, and that's you. I was like, oh, okay. So the first 3 years right out of grad school, didn't pay attention to that. I totally cooked myself on multiple occasions,
Hmm.
smelled a lot of chicken cooking, and it was me. But I recognized then, as I've continued through this, I've recognized a lightning rod's purpose is to ground out the lightning rod, to stay grounded, to ground out the lightning. And
Yep.
everybody everywhere, all the time, is going to be throwing lightning bolts at you from different ways, emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally. People are going to always try to hand you their stuff because they don't want to deal with it either. So here, you take it, you take it, you take it. So if you can remind yourself that you're the lightning rod, then that's your stuff, not my stuff. My stuff, I'm already cooking and marinating in my stuff. I don't
Yeah.
need your stuff. So it's really learning how to recognize that's yours, this is mine. And by doing that, you now create this balance of where then other people, when they're giving you their problems and their energy and their stuff to have you do that, it actually can charge you up instead of deplete you. And so that's what I've learned to do over the course of the last 23 years of being a therapist and a life coach is other people's problems charge me up because I know that I can provide at least some solutions. I'm not saying I have all the answers. Nobody does.
Yeah.
I am saying I have some answers because I've been doing this for a long time and I've probably talked to, 1,500, 2,000 people over the course of my career, maybe more, probably more. But it's that kind of stuff, right? Where as you continue to recognize that, it's like my job is to be, I love my job because my job is to be a professional secret keeper and advice giver, and people pay me for it.
Right.
Who doesn't love that, right? It's like, it's fun. I get when my favorite thing to see, and this is another part of my journaling and part of my intentions that I do every day is I've boiled all my intentions down. I used to have multiple goals throughout the course of my day. And now I have two. And I've had these two goals now for probably about 7 to 10 years. And the two goals are one is personally and professionally, when I'm with people, be present. Turn all the notifications off. Don't worry about anything else. Focus on the person in front of you. Be there for them. Because by being there for them, you're going to learn stuff for yourself too. And then professionally is go towards the light. Whenever I see that little flicker in someone's eyes, that little light bulb starting to light up, move them towards that, continually to get them to that, because that means that they've seen something or they've heard something that makes them go, huh, you mean I don't have to do this anymore? I can do it a different way? The answer is yes. Life is nothing but choices.
Mm-hmm.
You can change. And here's the best part. You're the author of your story. You get to change the story whenever you want to, if you can get out of your own way.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't always have to take some massive, like you said, aha moments
Yeah.
or I'm sure you get both ends. I'm sure there's people that come to you who are at the bottom of the barrel. They are at the lowest points of their life. And then
Mm-hmm.
you maybe get some people that come to you that are like, nothing's really that wrong. I just
Mm-hmm.
don't feel good. I'm
Mm-hmm.
I'm burnt out, whether
Yeah.
they are talking
Mm-hmm.
and whatever they think it is versus what they are. Do you approach everything sort of with that same,
Yes.
it can take small steps first? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you're still
Yeah.
approaching everything with the same mindset.
I approach it that way specifically because it's a process, it's a formula where even if you're at the lowest point in your life, the only way out of it is you have to go through it. And the
Mm-hmm.
only way through it is you have to have a guide to get through it. And that's what I do is I basically give people very specific concrete steps. I teach them very specific tools, both psychologically, I teach them meditation stuff, breathing exercises, journaling prompts, very specific things to help them begin to see the world they are constructing. Because that's what it always comes back to. The world's got 8 billion plus people. There are 8 billion plus simultaneous realities happening right now. This right here is you and I connecting our realities. The people listening are then connecting their realities to our conversation and our reality that we are having right now, which
Mm-hmm.
now will influence their reality and possibly reshape it. It's like that outer limits tagline, right? We can reshape your reality to anything that the mind can believe. Welcome to the outer limits, because that's what it is. It's that is we are the architect of everything around us. What we think, what we feel. The math equation I tell people is your thoughts plus your feelings equals your action and your reaction. And the thing is the action that you do now becomes somebody else's reaction. And then what they do because of that reaction now becomes your reaction. And that creates the cycle that we find ourselves stuck in. So one of the most important things to do when you find yourself in a reactive situation is take a second,
Yeah.
literally stop, take a deep breath, slow down and ask yourself, is this worth my time and energy? Because the time that we spend, once it's gone, it's gone. The energy that we spend, we may get it back or we may not. We don't know. That's the thing. Nobody is promised anything. So use every second you have and make it count.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like what you're saying too about the energy, because I think of energy as like currency. It's your money. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when you give it away and who you give it away to, you're not always going to get that back. So in a reactive state, what are some of the best things that you can recommend. So someone pauses, for example. Is it a deep breath first? Is it like a regroup? Is it walking away? Like, what are some of the best tips that you give when someone's like, whoa, I'm on
Yeah.
defense?
Yeah.
Asking for a friend, the friend's me.
Yeah. I teach people basically an emotional management plan, and I'll actually send you the link to it.
Yeah.
So it's just a simple worksheet that you can fill out for what works for you. But basically, it's a 4-step process. The first thing you do is you take that step and you do some box breathing. Because what's happening in those moments when we feel overwhelmed is our biological fear, fight, or flight response is being triggered. Because there's 2 versions. There's the biological part, which is survival. And then there's the psychological part, which reinforces the biological part. And that's the thing. The biological part only has one process. Oh, something's trying to kill me. Okay, that means I'm going to die. That means I need to dump all these wonderful neurochemicals and adrenaline and everything into our system to get us ready to fight or to run. That's what I have to do. And then the story gets involved. Oh, my boss sent me an email saying they want to talk to me. Okay. And then your brain starts to create a story, and the biological fight or flight response goes, well, we already know how this story is going to end. It means it's going to end in your death. And It's like, so what, there's going to be a cage match and your boss is going to come in with a gladiator sword and stab you? No, but that's the way our biology tells us is if there's a fight or flight response, that means death is imminent. That means that they're going to talk to you, you're going to lose your job, and then you're going to lose your house, and then you're going to lose your family, then you're going to lose your friends, and then you're going to end up dead under a bridge. I'm like, wow, that escalates really fast. That's only like 5 steps. At any time during those 5 steps, can you maybe not end up under a bridge?
Yeah.
Is that a possibility? Maybe, dead, especially, So It's those kind of things that's what we get stuck in all the time. And so the first thing you do is you take a breath and you do box breathing. And what box breathing is you breathe in for 4 seconds and you hold it. Then you breathe out for 4 seconds and you hold empty. And then you breathe in for 4 seconds and then you hold for 4 seconds and you do that 4 times. Sounds like a box, right? Surprising how that works.
Yeah.
So by doing that, biologically what it does is it basically tells your body, there is no tiger. I'm not being attacked by a bear. There is no physical maniac in front of me like Jason with a machete who's going to chop my head off right now. It stops that biological piece. Then you write it out. You literally just brain dump whatever the story is that your brain is telling you right now. I don't care if it's 97 swear words, whatever it is, just get it out on the page of what you're feeling. Because eventually you'll get to the part where it's like, I'm afraid this is what's going to happen. That's what it always comes back to. Then go do a quick bit of exercise. Power walk, sit-ups, push-ups, do something 2 to 3 minutes to get the adrenaline out of your heart, lungs, stomach, and brain. Because that's where adrenaline pools when you're sitting at a desk doing nothing. That's why you get a rolly gut. That's why you feel like your heart is going to explode. That's why you're breathing really shallowly. That's why this wonderful thing, when adrenaline interacts with your brain, it makes 1 second feel like 10, because that's what it does. And it's not that time is slowing down. It's that your brain has sped up to the point so that you can duck if a tiger is going to jump. But to us, it makes time seem like it's now lasting forever. And then our brain tells us, welcome to your new reality. This is the way it's going to be for the rest of your life. Enjoy.
Right.
And we feel miserable. So by doing those things, you're attacking this from the physical, from the physiological, from the endocrine system, and from the psychological by putting it on the page. So then after you do the exercise, you go back and you read what you wrote and you rank it. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do I still believe this? If it's 5 or above, do it again. And that will help you to reframe everything that's going on in that moment so that you can stop. It takes about 5-6 minutes to do this. Right. But by doing that, it begins to retrain your body and retrain your brain to then be able to see the danger signs. Because our body knows, because what people forget is this is 20%. Everything from the neck down is 80% of our sensory awareness. And that's where everything comes from, really, is 80% of it comes from our body. If my office was like 100 degrees right now and the air conditioning wasn't working, I probably wouldn't be able to think straight right now.
Right.
I'd just be sitting here going, oh man, I'm so hot. I'm so sweaty. What was the question? What's going on? But it's a nice, cool temperature. So I'm able to do that, right? Because my body is calm. I'm calm. Everything is good. But it's those things where the first step in psychological awareness is counterintuitive. It's body awareness. If you get a sick gut when you're getting ready to do something that makes you anxious, that's how you know you're getting anxious.
Mm-hmm.
If you recognize that your breathing becomes super shallow and your heart starts to race and you start to sweat more, maybe your guts don't do that, but you start to sweat more. Okay, that means your fight or flight response is being activated. Or maybe you get really tense in your shoulders. Everybody is slightly different. But by figuring out what your body is trying to tell you, you can then box breathe, write it out, exercise it out, read, repeat if necessary.
And it
And
doesn't
that
have to be this 25, 30-minute
doesn't have to take 25 to
expedition.
30 minutes.
Right.
No.
Right. And then I eventually, when you're putting this in practice, and I'd love to hear just from your perspective and who you've worked with, this must become to a point where it's second nature, where your brain then starts to jive with your body. Because I feel like that's the disconnect a lot of times for me, even personally, where my brain's not talking to my body and vice versa. So when you put this in practice, how long would you say it took you when you did it for yourself personally or for your clients? I know it'll differ per person, but when does that start to become a natural rhythm within your body?
It became better after about 50 days, but it became cemented after about 100. Because it takes between 90 and 100 days for new neural pathways to connect up in your brain and to make it, kind of make it more second nature. Yeah. Sometimes I still have to think about it. Sometimes the fear response is so big that I'm like, okay, what do I do? Okay, wait a minute. I know what I'm supposed to do. Wait a minute. Why can't I remember what I'm supposed to do? Oh no, I'm drawing a blank. Okay, maybe I should just breathe. And you just start with that, right? And it's like, I've been doing more podcasts, pitching this and doing this more now. And before every podcast, I'm like, okay, I need 5 minutes to just sit and do some box breathing because I'm going to do my best to not put my foot in my mouth. That's what I'm going to do. And so that's what every podcast. And I think you're like my 13th or 14th one I've done the last 3 months.
Well, I'm honored.
So it's like, even though I know the stuff, because obviously I'm talking about the stuff, but my brain is still like, are you sure? What if you don't this time? What if somehow you just draw a big old blank and that 23 years of knowledge you have turns to nothing?
And then you're dead under a bridge. Yeah.
And then you're dead under a bridge because no one will ever want to hear me. No one will ever think I know what I'm talking about. I'm going to lose my family and I'll be dead under a bridge.
It happens fast. That spiral happens very fast. And especially once, at least for me, my son came into the mix. It was amplified. And I know in reading about you, you did a lot of this too to become the father and the husband that you wanted to be, because both of those things are going to add. So for a long time, all you really care about is yourself. You just have to feed, clothe, and keep yourself alive. And then all of these other things come in. So how have you implemented that within the fatherhood and within marriage? And like, what does that look like when you're, at least this is how I feel. We add, we keep adding and adding and adding, but we don't give anything away. So how are you incorporating that into getting more in life?
I've learned to give stuff away. And as hard as it is, I've learned to say, no, this is my boundary. No, I know you want the thing, but the answer is no. Well, why is it no? Because I said it's no, because you've asked me 75 times, and the answer is no. I have 2 boys. They're 14 and almost 12 now. So they're best friends and worst enemies in about 2.6 seconds. So it goes from, oh, you're the best brother I ever do. He just punched me in the face. And it's just like, seriously?
Yeah.
What? Can you not just get along for literally 3 minutes? No? Okay. I guess we're going to have to do Thunderdome. Let's go. But that's the piece, is that I've learned that boundaries are one of the most important things for me. And the thing is I help people reframe what boundaries are. Because most people think of boundaries as, you can't do this. And it's not that. It's, I won't accept this. I'm telling you what I will and will not accept. I'm not telling you what you are going to do or not do. I'm just saying I won't accept certain things. So if you choose to do those things, this is the consequence. I'm going to leave. I am not going to engage. We are not going to be friends anymore. We're not going to have any kind of engagement. I'm done. And that's the thing that a lot of people struggle with because they feel like, well, if I give boundaries, then I'm going to make them angry and feel bad that they're being the way they are. And I'm like, no, you're just saying I'm not going to accept this. By you recognizing what you will and will not accept in every relationship and in any relationship, and really that comes down to you have to know yourself. And the only way to know yourself is you have to journal, you have to do the work, you have to look inside, you have to figure out what will I and will I not accept in my relationships, be it romantic, be it friendship, be it those things. And that's one of the things that I learned way back in elementary and high school is eventually the last 2 years of high school, the friend group that I was hanging out with, we weren't friends anymore because I finally, after therapy for 2 years and finally being 14 and recognizing I don't want to accept that anymore. I don't want it to be where when we're individuals, we're great, but when we're together, I get crap on. And I don't want
Mm-hmm.
that to happen anymore. So I chose to not do that. And the thing about that is you have to remember in high school, our hormones are all jacked up like 400%. So for us, literally, if you have a teenager and they're telling you in their brain, this thing that happened with this person is life and death, believe them.
Yeah.
Because hormonally speaking, evolutionarily speaking, that's exactly how they feel. Because when you go back and look at anthropologically speaking, do you know what the most common punishment was for people that would lead to death for about 185,000 years and still happens to this day?
Uh, anger?
Like exile,
Exile?
exile.
Oh my
Because
gosh.
for 185,000 plus odd years, we as human beings lived in small tribal groups. So it wasn't until about 200 years ago that we didn't have to worry so much about that. But 185,000 years of our history, being kicked out of the group meant certain death because
Mm-hmm.
you, as one lone human being back then, couldn't do everything to protect yourself, to feed yourself, to clothe yourself, to survive. So that meant certain death. So shunning and exile meant death. So in high school, you're all jacked up 400% hormones. You're in these social groups. And if you get exiled, you literally are biologically feeling like I am in exile, which means I am probably going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And the sad thing is, because kids don't understand that is not a permanent state. It can become a permanent state if it isn't recognized, and then they become depressed, anxious, withdrawn, and it can lead to suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Yeah.
the stuff that's so scary and it's a biological reason. And that's why I tell everybody, look, suicide is a long-term solution to a short-term problem.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people need to recognize is that taking that step back and recognizing these things, doing the box breathing, doing the writing, doing the physical exercise, doing those things to calm and soothe the 80% of you that's freaking out that has all the genes. Because the thing that people don't know is that they found recently that human beings, the amazing thing about us is that we have this higher intelligence, right? We can reason, we can understand, we see these things, we recognize these things. But what people don't realize is that we also still have biologically, genetically transmitted stuff. That's why there is intergenerational trauma. That's why
Mm-hmm.
getting people out of poverty, it takes generation after generation for them to not have a lack mindset because that literally is now encoded in their genes. And it's those kind of things that, in some way, we are all like Bambi. You get up right at you're coming out, all of a sudden deers can walk and run and do all the stuff and know all the things. We need a little bit of help, but they can get most things done. It takes us 18 years if we're lucky to be able to maybe kind of function, sort
Right.
of. These
Right.
days, maybe up to 22, give or take, those kind of things. But it's that stuff is that you are a product of your environment, but you're a product of your genes. And so by recognizing the balance between those two, that's why that's why doing the 1% per day change works so well because it's not this radical, massive shift because that lasts for about a week
Yeah.
and then you calm down and then it's like well no one else is doing it so I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. That's why the small things also changes the way that you interact, the way your brain interacts, the way your biology interacts, the way all these things interact in order to create and craft this new version of reality that you want. Did that make sense?
Yeah. And
Okay.
I'm also thinking about the generational piece. And also you mentioned
Hmm.
something earlier about when you were in the NICU and they
Hmm.
didn't know that you could hold, as in like the body keeps score type stuff.
Hmm.
So you've
Yes.
had a couple things and you've shared some of them being in the NICU, your mother's death, your
Hmm.
experience within high school and middle school. Your
Hmm.
body holds that.
Oh yeah.
And I am sure a lot of people who are coming to you and working with you also have similar
Hmm.
experiences that they're holding on to, maybe even subconsciously. How
Yeah.
do you start to address those things,
Hmm.
especially if you're almost internalizing it as I'm fine, I'm fine,
Hmm.
I'm fine.
Hmm.
But that's actually potentially what's causing you, like you said, not being
Yeah.
held in the NICU had a
Hmm.
physical, emotional
Long-term
reaction.
effect that I didn't know until I was 44. I
Yeah.
mean, it's that kind of
Yeah.
thing, right?
How do you start to
It's
maybe
just who
tap
I am.
into, yeah, it's
Yeah.
just, it is what it is. And I think that's,
Yeah.
everything is so fast paced right now as well that
Hmm.
I fall into it too. It is what it is. It's good. It's
Yeah.
fine. Keep
Hmm.
going. And then you
Hmm.
go on autopilot. And then there's that
Yep.
sense of burnout because you're so disconnected. So
Hmm.
with generational stuff and with other things that maybe are
Hmm.
impacting you that you don't even remember, how do you start to tap into some of that stuff and actually use that as power
Hmm.
versus this is something that will hold me back, will always hold me back,
Hmm.
and I have no control over?
Yeah. That's a multi-layered question.
Yeah.
So the first part is it always comes back to its awareness.
Mhm.
You need to own it. If you can't own it, you can't fix it. It's just like it's the basics of problem solving from an engineering perspective. If you don't know there's a problem, how do you know there's something to solve? So it really comes back to, okay, even if you're coming into me and you're saying, yeah, I'm just feeling off. Like, okay, well, let's talk about what is off to you. Tell me about what offness looks like to you. Well, I'm not really sleeping well. When I'm around other people, I'm kind of a little extra nervous and antsy. When I think about things, I tend to have racing thoughts and I don't like where they go. They tend to be more negative than positive. I just don't like the way I'm feeling right now. It's like, okay, well, let's explore that. So I'd like you to do, we go back to doing the cognitive behavioral stuff, which is let's figure out what the story is. Because in these moments, you're telling yourself a story. As human beings, we are our software up here, our hardware up here called our brain runs on story. We've been
Mhm.
told a story every second of every day from the day we were born. Mine is you're a miracle. You need to go do something with your life. Because if you don't go do something with your life, then you have wasted your life. And all those other babies that died and you didn't, they're going to be spinning in their graves.
No pressure. Yeah.
Paraphrasing here, paraphrasing. Didn't
Yeah.
actually say that, but that's how I internalize it, right? They didn't say that to me,
Right.
but but that's what my brain is like. Well, I better do something. I better heal the world or something, something, because oh my gosh, all those other babies died and I didn't. Why not? Why me? Right? So I
Yeah.
had survivor's guilt pretty much from the day I was born and didn't even know it. So it's those kind of things, but I had to go back and I had to figure out, okay, who am I? What do I want to be? Who do I want to do? Because when I talk to people, the big thing is this always comes back to setting goals. Everybody hates talking about goal setting because they always feel exhausted before they even start.
Mm.
Because when we talk about setting goals, people do it backwards. This is the mountaintop. That's where I want to get to. Okay. So you're looking up at the mountaintop, you're seeing the clouds, you can't even see the peak. Maybe occasionally the cracks, you can kind of see the peak, and you're like, I'm already tired. That's a long way up there. I don't want to do that. That's a long way. So I always tell people when you work on goal setting, it has to be in the be, do, have model of goal setting. You have to understand that the first thing you have to figure out is who do you want to be when you get to the top of the mountain? Because if you don't know that when you get there, your entire life is going to fall apart because you haven't grown as you've made it through these steps. So, first, who do you want to be? Again, what kind of husband did I want to be? What kind of father did I want to be? What kind of man did I want to be? What kind of therapist did I want to be? Brother, son, all these different labels that have been stuck on me. Who do I want to be? Who am I? You know, minor existential question there, just a
Right.
little one, right? Just a
Yeah.
little one.
Figure it out.
Okay, so you start figuring out, who do I want to be? And it starts with a simple be. It's not the overall grand granddaddy of them all be. It's, I want to be a person that is able to help others through their pain. That's a very simple, concrete, measurable statement. How can I be a person that helps others through their pain? Okay, so what did I have to do? Well, I got my degree, got my bachelor's in social work, and I got my master's in social work. Then I went and did the 3,200 hours of clinical supervision. Then I sat for two different tests. Then I was licensed. Then I began, while that I was working and practicing and learning. And then I started talking to more people and doing more things. That's what I had to do to become a licensed clinical therapist. And now I've gotten to the point of, okay, well, I want to do more and I want to reach out to more people. Okay, so who do I need to be that kind of person? Well, I need to be somebody that understands how technology works, how to find people, how to tell people my message. I need to figure out what is my message. And I got to figure out, well, first you got to figure out, well, what kind of program are you trying to sell people? And do you really want to sell people? And all the kind of stuff, right? So I had to do that. So I found a coach and they're walking me through, this is how you build a program. This is how you talk to people. This is how you let them know what you're doing. This is how you are you, but you're also kind of not you, because you have to think with two brains now, because you
Mm-hmm.
can't think like a therapist, because you also have to think like a businessman. And it's like, okay. So it's learning all that stuff. So, but it always starts with B. If you can figure out the beginning B, it'll lead you on the path. And then the do takes care of itself. Because when you figure out the being part, there are steps to do with almost every B that's out there.
Yeah.
And then once you have the be and you have the do, you get the have, because you follow the path of other people to get you to the place. So if you want to become a Buddhist monk, okay, well, the first thing you have to do is first you have to decide, do I want to be a Buddhist monk? And then
Yeah.
you have to figure out, what does a Buddhist monk look like? Okay, this is what it means to be a Buddhist monk. Okay, so this is what I have to do every day. I have to meditate from sun up to sundown. I have to do these different things and that kind of stuff. And then eventually you have the thing of being a Buddhist monk.
Mm-hmm.
That might not be for everyone. I'm just using it as an
Yeah.
example. But
Probably, yeah. Maybe not for me, but there are probably
yeah.
people out there. That's
Yes,
their
there's people out there who want to do that.
that's their goal. But it makes sense. And it's interesting you say people sometimes do it backwards, where they're
Hmm.
almost wanting so you're saying they want the have before they
Hmm.
even really understand what it
Yeah.
is they want
Well, because the way
to
goal
be.
setting was taught to me in school, and I had to relearn it, was, if you know what you want, if you know the mountaintop, then you can work backwards to figure out what you need to do. But by the time you get to there, then you'll know who you are. And for
Yeah.
most people, it's like they do it, they get there, and then they're like, all right, where's the enlightenment?
What
I'm
now?
waiting.
Yeah.
Come on. I did the thing. I made the $1 million. Where's the lightning bolt that lets me know what to do now? And for most people, they don't get that, because they've been focusing on just getting to the mountaintop. They haven't
Hmm.
focused on, well, how did this change you getting to the mountaintop? Recognizing the little changes that happen every day to get you there. And that's the thing that is the most important part of all this stuff, is it always comes back to, you need to own your own stuff.
Hmm.
If you don't own your stuff, then you can't fix it. If you can't fix it, then change doesn't occur. If change doesn't occur, then you're stuck. It
Right.
always comes back to, you have to know you and you have to own your stuff. I know for me, I know what my faults are, because I've had to learn to own them. Sometimes I definitely talk too much. I'm a know-it-all. I tend to I tend to jump to conclusions. My brain often works faster than my mouth. When I hear people, I really, really have learned to listen really well, but my brain still is like, yeah, I'm already like 15 steps ahead. So can you speed it up, please?
Yeah. Can you get on my level?
Yeah, can you get on my level, please? I'm like, I already know exactly what you're going to say. I'm already like down the hall and I've left the building. Where are you? You're still in
Yeah.
the building? How is that possible? Come on. Do I have to come back in there and drag you out of the building faster? Let's go. Right. So I know these things
Get
about
it.
myself. So I have to consciously every day be like, stop. You have 23 years of therapy experience of being a therapist. being in therapy, going through your own therapy, and all this different stuff. Not everybody's going to think that what you have to say is this aha moment because they don't get it in the context that it is in your brain. So
Yeah.
you have to backtrack and slow down and say, oh, this is where we start. This is level one. I'm not at level one anymore, but I have to go back to level one whenever I talk to anybody. Slow down, take a breath, and discuss this is why small, consistent changes will lead to massive results. Because I love the math behind it. My favorite thing is that I hated math growing up, but my dad was an engineer, so he made me learn math. But learning the math changed the way I look at things because
Yeah.
so in 100, so basically in the course of a year, at 1% compounding change a day, you end up with what is it? So you end up with 365% change in 1 year, just doing 1% a day.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. Actually, because it's compounding, because everything you do works on top of each other, it actually ends up being like 7,230 or something like that, where it's actually you're getting
Not bad.
massive change because you're changing because you're making that change every day and it's stacking and stacking. So one becomes two, and then two becomes four, and then four becomes eight,
Yeah,
et
that's
cetera, et cetera,
SAT
et
math that
cetera.
I can't do.
Yeah,
That's
it's compounding, but that's what the change is. So if you just spend 1 week working on creating a better sleep routine for yourself, in a year you will have that routine down and you will sleep great every night.
and then you can focus on new. So this is
Hmm.
sometimes where I know I get overwhelmed is I
Hmm.
do have 75 different goals.
Hmm.
How do I start with the first one?
Hmm.
And looking big picture, like you just said, okay, so give the
Hmm.
sleep routine a month. Once
Hmm.
you have that on handle, you can add a new one.
Then build the next
I
one.
get
Hmm.
really, okay, I have to do all these things right this very
Hmm.
second, or I will
Hmm.
end up under a bridge dead. That is
Yeah.
where my brain goes. So,
Mhm.
how do you recommend that someone, if they have all these different things on their plate, they want to make
If
all
I
these different
asked you,
changes?
so it starts with this. If I asked you right now, what is the number one thing that is in your brain right now that you're concerned about?
Work-life balance. So being a mom, and I'm full-time corporate and podcasting in this, and I am a mom to a 15-month-old. So
Okay. So
trying to show
work-life
up for both.
balance.
Yep. So
Okay.
basically better work-life balance. Yeah.
So so if better work-life balance is the phase, because I just asked you out of the blue, what's that question, right? So
Hmm.
that's what you start with, that piece. So what does
Got it.
work-life, so now we go back to work-life balance. Okay. What does a balanced work and home life look like to you? Break that down. What does that
Yep.
look like to you? Is
Right.
that I'm home 100% of the time and I'm at work like 0% of the time? Is it 50-50? Is it 70-30? What does that look? Because everybody's number is going to be different.
Right.
That's the thing. So it's what does that balance look like? Once you can figure out the balance and break it down to a percentage, then you can start implementing, okay, what are things I can do every day? What is the 15-minute thing I can do every day? Like for a lot of people that have struggled with work-life balance, I say this is where you start. In the morning, make sure you spend an intentional 15 minutes with your spouse, with your kid, where you're doing something where you are looking in their eyes, you're connecting, you're talking, you're doing these things, you're holding them, you're there for them in every way for 15 minutes. Then go do whatever you need to do. If you have time over lunch, then you can make it home. Come home, spend another 15 minutes with your spouse, with your significant other, with your kid for 15 minutes, just focused on them doing that. Then you go throughout your day, you come back, and then at the end of the day, you make sure you have a good, strong bedtime routine with your kid, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it takes, and you focus on them. You don't let anything else distract you from that because that time that you have with them now becomes this sacred bubble. And if
Yep.
anything breaches that bubble, oh, let's slip the dogs of war, take them out. No, this is my bubble for
That's your
my
boundary.
family. This is
That's
my
your
boundary.
boundary. That's what I will
And
accept.
and that's where you start. And
Yeah.
that's how you start is you break it down to that very small amount because part of you is like, well, oh my gosh, if I don't do this, then that means X, Y, Z. And one of the lessons, I mean, I changed the way I deal with my kids about a month ago because I read an article that said, you're not going to like this. So I warn you in advance that in America, 90 to 93% of the time that we get with our kids is between 0 and 18
Yeah.
for for us. That
Yes.
means we get 90% of our time with them between 0 and 18. After that, we get 10% of them for the rest of our lives. 7 to 10% for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
And that just, when I read that, I'm like, that math is wrong. Those numbers are inflated. That's just a scare tactic. Now, let me think here. Oh, wait, no.
It's
Okay. And
true.
for the first 18 years, I lived with my parents, and then I went to college. And then I saw them maybe for the first 3 months, maybe once a month. And then I saw them maybe on holidays. And then I moved across the country and I saw them once. And then I moved to California and I saw them once. And then they got busy and this happened. And it's like, oh, okay,
It's
dang. So I
it's
changed the
true.
way so now when I see my kids, I used to be like, well, no, I'm too tired. I don't want to do that. No, I got to go mow the lawn. No, I got to go do this other stuff. And now I'm like, yes, I can spend a half hour playing the video game that you want me to play with you. Yes, I can work out with you every night because you're trying to get in shape. Yes, I can do these things, but I set time limits on them. And one of the most efficient ways that I've found is I do what's called schedule blocking, where
Yep.
I have blocks, I have hour blocks throughout my day when I do stuff, and that's when I do stuff. After that, I'm done. I don't do stuff.
You
I
have a
stop at a certain time.
non-stuff. Yeah. The
Yeah,
non-stuff.
I have time, and part of my blocking is I block in rest. I block in relaxation. I block in family time. I block in eating. I block in sleeping. I block in all these things because if I don't do that, what do I put on my calendar? I put stuff that's important to me.
Yeah. And I think people are so conditioned to make it appointments. I have a doctor's appointment. I have this meeting. I
Mhm.
have to do this call with
And
corporate.
those are important too. But also,
Yes.
what about self care? What about you? Like, I'm going to take X time to go for a walk. I'm going to take walking my dog twice a day is on my calendar because
Yeah.
it's either that or he poops and pees all over my house. And I really don't want that. So, it's a pretty easy formula, right?
I think
It's that kind of
people
stuff.
are resistant to that because I had to get myself out of this mindset of that's not productive.
Hmm.
But like, what is productivity?
Yeah.
Like, what is this word that society has made productivity? So
Yeah.
why isn't that block where I do it too? I'll put like watch TV because if
Hmm.
I don't have it on there and I really want to watch a show, I won't do
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I was like, oh, this is the laziest thing of me to do to put
Hmm.
watch TV on my calendar. But
Hmm.
that is, it's
But do
important
you
to
watch
me.
TV?
Usually,
Yeah. See? There
sometimes
you,
I break my own rules, which
yeah.
that's on me.
Well,
But
but that brings a very good point there.
yeah,
Building failure into your goals is the most important way to succeed at all of your goals. And people are like, that doesn't make any sense.
yeah,
How does that
you're
work?
telling me to fail. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm saying no. I'm saying build in. I have 3 days a month that I have allotted myself where I can basically say, nope, not going to do it. Not going to journal, not going to meditate, not going to eat well, not going to do anything. I'm just going to have a day where I'm just going to basically lay around like a lump. That's
yep,
what I'm going to do because I am so tired of all the doing and all the stuff that I just need a day to do nothing. And the thing is I found that the longer I have these things allotted, the less I use them because now it becomes such a
interesting.
part of my routine that, but the good thing is that knowing they're there means that if something goes wrong and I miss something, it's not the end of the world. It is
Yeah,
just part of the plan. It's
you're a
just part of the
human.
plan. I'm a human. It's just part of the plan. Failure is an option. Failure has to be an option. If failure is not an option, then you will fail because you will get so burned out and so exhausted because you're not building in rest periods for yourself. It's like when I had to drive cross country from South Dakota to Washington State. I could have driven the entire 23 hours, but I probably would have fallen asleep halfway through and wrecked my vehicle.
Right. And sounds unpleasant also, even if it
Ex-
sleep
exactly right.
wasn't a part of the problem.
Exactly. but it's that thing, right? It's like when you think about it in that way, it's, well, of course that makes sense. Why would you want to drive for 23 hours straight? Of course you'd stop like after like 6, 7 hours and stay
Yeah.
somewhere at some roadside motel. Yeah, makes sense, right? Well, what about your life? How often do you do that in your life? Well, I got this. I'll just keep
Push
going. It's
through.
fine.
Yeah.
Everything's great. I'll just push through. No problem. Man, I'm just so tired. Oh man, I'm thinking I'm getting sick. Man, I hope I don't get sick. And secretly, boy, I kind of hope I do get sick because I could use about 3 days off when no one will bother me. And if I got snot coming out of me and they're going to be like, no, stay away, stay.
No one wants to touch me
Exactly,
anyway.
right? And you're like, yay, I'm free. It's like, oh, wait, that's not a good thing.
It's also really sad. We have been nonstop sick in this household. I mean, we had to reschedule because my son gave us all hand, foot, and mouth, which was incredibly exciting. But I actually really love the way that you think about failure because it's the classic New Year's resolution thing. People get these crazy big ideas, and then a week later, they're so burnt out and they have already broken their intention because it was just too much.
It was too much.
And figuring out
trying to create lightning in a bottle. And that doesn't work.
It does not. And a lot of people, at least from the fitness sense, don't want to hear it takes time. So how do you, because I'm sure people are like, how do I fix this in 2 weeks? And you're like, you can't.
I basically say you don't.
Yeah.
I say you don't. I can give you a path to fix it in maybe 3 months. I can give you a 100-day plan. And if you do this every single day religiously, with a couple of days off for, with a couple of your cheat days mixed in there, you can do it. But you're not going to like it. I still would recommend about 6 months to really work on this, to make it a really firm commitment. That's why the program I have it's 6 months. And in the beginning of the program, I tell them, here's the 100-day method. Here's the 5-month method. Here's the 6-month method. You can figure out a variation in between that, but this is the way it looks so that you can get the most out of this program, because I don't want you to get burned out while trying to solve your burnout. That completely defeats the purpose.
You feel worse somehow after you've done this.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow. Boy, I feel so much more burned out now that I took that course on burnout. Huh? What? How does that work?
That seems a little backwards. And it is.
Yes.
I mean, you have to be willing to invest the time, but you've made it manageable, which I think is the biggest key piece. And what a lot of it, a lot of people are missing, I think. So can you tell people where to find your course and where you plug yourself? You plug right on.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Well, if you want to learn more about small changes, big impact, and how 1% per day can transform your life in 100 days, you can find me at smallchangesbigimpact.net/info. On that website, there is a link for a video, a 20-minute free training on burnout. There is an ebook on burnout, or you can set up a call just to talk to me. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram at smallchangesbigimpact, the number 4 and the letter U. And both of those I post like once a day, just therapist thoughts and things that are running through my brain because I'm full of it.
We love it. And I'll tag this all also up in the show notes so people can get the direct links, and I can tag it on all of the things. Thank you so much, Clint. This was incredible. Please check him out. Check out his course. A lot of you I know are very busy, burnt out people. So Clint can help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Welcome to My 10 podcast. I hope you had as much fun listening as I do recording. I am so happy to have you here, and see you next episode.